Hello everybody, this is the 47th lecture of IELTS with Mr. Haidar Al-Qasir. Today we are taking Book 15, Academic, Test 4, Reading 1. Okay, Passage 1. The Return of the Harango. The arid valleys of southern Peru are welcoming the return of a native plant. We have two questions here, gaps, from 1 to 8. It says choose one word only. This is from 1 to 5 from the passage for each answer. Write your answers in boxes 1 to 5 on your answer sheet. The importance of the Harango tree. So, in the importance of Harango tree, you may find the answers in 1 or in 2 paragraphs. That depends. This is not only for the Harango tree, this is for all the questions of the importance. Why? Because sometimes they write the importance of something or the defects of something in 1 paragraph, in 2 paragraphs, or so even sometimes in 3 paragraphs. That depends. Okay, it says its roots can extend as far as 80 meters into the soil, can access gap deep below the surface, was a crucial part of local inhabitants' gap a long time ago, helped people to survive periods of gap, prevents gap of the soil, prevents land from becoming a gap. Do not forget, you don't find those words precisely the same. You might find an explanation, for example for number 2 or for number 1, for 3, 4 or 5. We will come to it. Okay, we have the south coast of Peru is a narrow 2,000 kilometer long strip of desert squeezed between the Andes and the Pacific Ocean. It's also one of the most fragile ecosystems on Earth. It hardly ever rains there, and the only year-round source of water is located tens of meters below the surface. This is why the Harango tree is so suited to life there. It has the longest roots of any tree in the world. They stretch down 50 to 80 meters. Okay, we come to the answers now. And as well as sucking up water from the tree, they bring it into the higher subsoil, creating a water source for other plant life. So, can access water deep below the surface. Here, why? Because it says sucking up water for the tree, they bring it into the higher subsoil, creating a water source for other plant life. So number 1 will be water. Let's go on. Number 2 talks about was a crucial part of local inhabitants' gap a long time ago. Number 3 helped the people to survive periods of gap. Let's see. Dr. David Beresford Jones, archaeobotanist at Cambridge University, has been studying the role of the Harango tree in landscape change in the lower Eka Valley in southern Peru. He believes the Harango was key to ancient people's diet, and because it could reach deep water sources, it allowed local people to withstand years of a drought when their other crops failed. So, it was a crucial part of local inhabitants' diet a long time ago. So number 2 will be diet, and number 3 helped people to survive periods of drought. Why? Because he says in line number 2, the last 2 words, he believes the Harango was key to the ancient peoples. That means a long time ago. Diet. So number 2 will be diet. and because it could reach deep water sources, it allowed local people to withstand. That means to survive. Here, years of drought, periods of. So number 3 will be drought. Okay, let's move on. Number 4 says it prevents gap of the soil. Number 5 says prevents land from becoming a gap. Let's see. But over the centuries, Hurango trees were gradually replaced with crops. Cutting down native woodland leads to erosion, as there is nothing to keep the soil in place. So when the Hurango go, the land turns into a desert. Nothing grows at all in the lower Eka Valley now. Okay, so number 4 prevents erosion of the soil, and number 5 prevents land from becoming a desert. Why? Because he's saying cutting down native woodland leads to erosion. This is what I chose for number 4. There is nothing to keep the soil in place. So that means it prevents erosion of the soil. So when the Hurango go, the land turns into a desert. Number 5 prevents land from becoming a desert. Okay. So number 1 will be water, 2 diet, 3 drought, 4 erosion, 5 desert. Let's go to traditional uses of Hurango tree. Part of a tree, traditional use. Gap, fuel. 7, gap and gap, medicine. 8, gap, construction. So we come to its uses. For paragraphs 1 and 2, I haven't read anything about the uses of the Hurango. It says no more than 2 words. That means 1 or 2 words for each gap. Okay. For centuries, the Hurango tree was vital to the people of the neighboring Middle Eka Valley too. They grew vegetables under it and ate products made from its seed pods. Its leaves and bark were used for herbal remedies. Herbal remedies. As we know, remedies is something related to medicine. That means to use the herbs or to use the plants or whatever without using medicines. Okay, so its leaves and bark were used for herbal remedies. That means number 7, leaves and barks. We found number 7 before number 6. For such a thing is something usual to find something before the other thing for the gaps. Why? Because it talks about something we use for something. So we just need to, just like it's a jigsaw game, when you play the jigsaw, you just put the missing parts. That's it. You don't have to put the parts raw. So number 7 will be leaves and bark. Let's go on. Sorry, we still have a fuel or construction. So while its branches were used for charcoal for cooking and heating. Charcoal means a fuel. So number 6 will be branches, because the branches were used as a fuel, as charcoal. So let's go on. 8, construction. Let's see. Let's look for number 8 here. And its trunk was used to build houses. Building, constructing. So trunk, number 8 will be trunk, was used, and its trunk was used to build houses. Okay, so number 8 will be trunk. So that means 6 will be branches, 7 will be leaves and bark. By the way, in either order you may say bark and leaves, it's okay. Number 8 will be trunk. Okay, once we come to the end of answering this question, these 2 questions, I don't have to go on with the other paragraphs. I have also here 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs. I have other 4 paragraphs, but I don't have to go through them because it will be just losing the time, no more no less. I immediately move on to the other question. The other question is true, false, not given. If the statement agrees with the information, true. If the statement contradicts the information, false. If there is no information on this, not given. 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. And as usual, we start reading the questions, then move on with the passage. 9. Local families have told Wally about some traditional uses of Horango products. Farmer Alberto Benavides is now making a good profit from growing Horangos. Wally needs the cooperation of farmers to help preserve the area's wildlife. For Wally's project to succeed, it needs to be extended over a very large area. Wally has plans to go to Africa to set up a similar project. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. I've read the first 3 paragraphs. I haven't found anything about Wally or Alberto Benavides or whatever, so I don't have to reread them. I just go on with it. Okay. I've read the first 3 paragraphs. I just immediately come to the 4th one because I haven't read anything about local families and about Wally. So I don't have to reread them, it will be a loss of time. Number 4 says, of the forests that were here 1,000 years ago, 99% have already gone, says botanist Oliver Wally. Okay, I have Wally, so I need to focus here. From Kew Gardens in London, who together with ethnobotanist Dr. William Milton is running a pioneering project to protect and restore the rapidly disappearing habitat. In order to succeed, Wally needs to get the local people on board, and that has meant overcoming local prejudices. Increasingly, aspirational communities think that if you plant food trees in your home or street, it shows you are poor and still need to grow your own food. He says in order to stop the Middle Acre Valley going the same way as the Lower Acre Valley, Wally is encouraging locals to love the Horangos again. It's a process of cultural resuscitation, he says. He has already set up a Horango festival to reinstate a sense of pride in their eco-heritage and has helped local school children plant thousands of trees. Number 9. Local families have told Wally about some traditional uses of Horanga products. Have read nothing about this. It doesn't say they told them, doesn't say they didn't. So until now it's not given. Let us make sure to go on with the other paragraphs. If the other paragraphs, if the next paragraph talking about Wally. In order to get people interested in habitat restoration, you need to plant a tree that is useful to them, says Wally. So he has been working with local families to attempt to create a sustainable income from the Horangos by turning their products into foodstuffs. Okay. Number 9 says Wally needs the cooperation of farmers to help preserve the area's wildlife. Still haven't read it yet, but first let's look for Alberto Benavides. Don't forget, number 9 is not given because it doesn't say, none of the paragraphs yet say that the families told Wally about the products or they didn't tell. Okay. To go on, says Wally, so he has been working with local families to attempt to create sustainable income from the Horangos by turning their products into foodstuffs. Boil up the beans and you get this thick brown syrup like molasses. You can also use it in drinks, soups or stews. The pods can be ground into flour to make cakes, and the seeds roasted into a sweet. Chocolate, coffee, it's packed full of vitamins and minerals, Wally says. Okay. And some farmers are already planting farangos. Alberto Benevides. Let's see Alberto Benevides. Number 10. Farmer Alberto Benevides is now making a good profit from growing farangos. Let's see. Alberto Benevides, owner of Eka Valley's only certified organic farm, which Wally helped set up, has been planting the tree for 13 years. He produces syrup and flour and sells these products at an organic farmers market in Lima. His farm is relatively small and doesn't yet provide him with enough to live on. It says farmer Alberto Benevides is now making a good profit from growing farangos. So it gives wrong information. That means 10 is false. Why? Because it says his farm is relatively small and does not yet provide them with enough to live. And here it says making a good profit. So number 10 will be false. Let's see. 11. Wally needs the cooperation of farmers to help preserve the area's wildlife. 12. For Wally's project to succeed, it needs to be extended over a very large area. Let's move to the next paragraph. But even if Wally can convince the local people to fall in love with the farango again, there is still the threat of the larger farms. Some of these cut across the forests and break up the corridors that allow the essential movement of mammals, birds, and pollen up and down the narrow forest strip, in the hope of counteracting this. He is persuading farmers to let him plant forest corridors on their land. He believes the extra woodland will also benefit the farms by reducing their water usage through allowing of evaporating and providing a refuge for biocontrol insects. Okay, so number 11 will be true. Why? Because it says here in the last 3 lines he's persuading farmers, so that means he needs the cooperation of farmers to help him. Yes. Where is it? He's persuading farmers to let him plant forest corridors on their land. He believes the extra woodland will also benefit the farms by reducing their water usage through allowing of evaporation and providing a refuge for biocontrol insects. That means to help preserve the area's wildlife. This is the meaning of preserve the area's wildlife, about the less use of water, lowering of evaporation, and providing a refuge for biocontrol insects. So number 11 will be true. Let's see number 12. For what is the project to succeed, it needs to be extended over a very large area. Let's move on to the other paragraph. If we can record a biodiversity and see how it all works, then we are in a good position to move on from there. Desert habitats can reduce down to very little. Wally explains, it's not like a rainforest that needs to have his huge expanse. Life has always been confined to corridors and islands here. If you just have a few trees left, the population can grow up quickly because it's used to exploiting water when it arrives. So in this case, number 12, project to succeed, it needs to be extended over a very large area. No, number 12 gives false information, wrong information. So number 12 will be false. Why? Because he says here is in the second line, it's not like a rainforest that needs to have this huge expanse. Life has always been confined to corridors and islands here. If you just have a few trees left, so he doesn't need a very large area, he needs a few trees left. So number 12 will be false. 15. Wally has a plans to go to Africa to set up a similar project. Let's see. Life has always been confined to corridors and islands here. If you just have a few trees left, the population can grow up quickly because it's used to exploiting water, and it arrives. He sees this project as a model that has a potential to be rolled out across other arid areas around the world. If we can do it here in the most fragile system on earth, then that's a real message for hope for lots